Hi there folks, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Ben and I'm a photographer based in North Wales. If you follow the channel, I'm sure by now you'll be aware that I shoot on a Sony, two Sony a7 IIIs. I'm really enjoying the system, although there are a few little quirks that I'm not so sure about, which I've mentioned before. I do miss my Lumix at times, and as I'm sure you're also aware, camera bodies have been coming out thick and fast the last few years, and I do not see that slowing down. So saying that, it's 2020 and it's just about time that the Sony a7 III had a bit of a refresh. We've already seen the A7R4 replace the A7R III, so that's Sony's megapixel beast of a camera sorted for a couple of years. I don't really think we're going to see a A7S III, to be honest with you. Both the A7 and the A7R cameras now, they're so well equipped for video as well as photos that I'm not sure Sony see the need to replace the A7S II. But sticking to the 2-year cycle, which Sony seems to be following, I reckon come March, April, we'll all be admiring and watching all the videos on the brand new Sony a7 IV. Which begs the question, what is it going to bring in terms of improvements or new additions compared to the a7 III? Truth is, we can't really know until we see the spec sheet, but here's a few things that I would like to see. So, first off, a coloured focus point. So many times already using the Sony a7 III, I always tend to use the medium spot focus, and I cannot for the life of me see where my focus point is using the EVF. The A7R4 does have a red focus point, and I think the A7R III as well actually. So why they can't put it in the A7 IV, I don't know. So hopefully that'll be the first addition. Rubber, or at least tactile, is that the word? Rubber port caps. These things absolutely do my head in. They can be a bit of a pain to pop out in the first place. When they are out, they're just dangling there, getting in the way of cables and whatnot. If you're using a cage like I am, I'm using a half cage, then they can start getting in the way of the cage itself, or again, of the cables that you're trying to get in there. I know for a fact that not many people are a fan of these at all. I know of a couple of people who have just yanked them off completely. They've just got sick and tired of them. So some improvement with those would be nice to see. 2 UHS 2 card slots. What the idea is in having one UHS 2 and one UHS 1 card slot in the a7 III, I do not know. I can't wrap my head around it. If you're doing any sort of paid work, as I do, then ideally you want to be shooting to both cards so that you've got redundancy should one card go wrong. But when only one of them is UHS 2, you're still relying on the speed of the slower card. I did cover this briefly in a previous video, I can't remember which one, but I ran some tests and shooting just to the UHS 2 card was a lot faster than shooting to both cards. For comparison, I used to shoot on the Lumix G9 that had 2 UHS 2 slots, and there was no difference in write speed to 2 cards or just to 1 card. So please, Sony, you did one, just do the other one as well. Overheating. Even I have experienced this just doing these videos, and I'm sat in a cold garage right now. But shooting 4K, 25p, I've had overheating problems. It's not a warm room at all. What they could do to combat that? I imagine just a couple of small vents or something. Obviously that might be of some compromise to weather sealing, but if they could figure out a way of doing that, whether it's through vents or improved processing, then that would be great to see. Silent shutter banding. So if you're like me and you've tried shooting weddings or events indoors and you want to use the silent shutter on the a7 III, it's quite likely that you've seen banding in your images. The A9 does not suffer from this. I'm not sure why. I'm not really clued up on the science behind it, but the A9, you can shoot pretty much any shutter speed in silent shooting mode under whatever lighting conditions you want, and you pretty much won't see any banding. The A7 III, on the other hand, I have figured out that if you shoot at 1/100th of a second, it seems to do the trick, here in the UK anyway. I think it depends on the local current frequency in your area, but here's a few images where you can definitely see that banding while I've been using silent shutter. Obviously when you're shooting moving subjects, people, ideally you'd have a faster shutter speed than that. So that's not ideal. If they can do something about that, that would be hugely appreciated. Improved grip. Honestly, I've not found the grip on the A7 III to be that bad, especially if you add a battery grip to the bottom of it. It does give you much more support where your pinky and even third finger might be sitting. Whether they'll do that, I'm not too sure. We'll have to wait and see. Higher quality EVF and rear LCD displays. I think I was personally spoilt using the Lumix G9. Both the EVF and the rear display were fantastic on that camera. The EVF blew my mind, to be honest with you. It was so nice and big, such high resolution. Switching then to the A7 III, it was a little bit of a shock, I have to say. Granted, it's probably a decision they made to keep the cost down of the A7 III, to keep it under that £2,000 mark, but when a £800 Micro Four Third camera has a better LCD and EVF than a £2,000 full frame camera, it gets you thinking. And then IAF, eye autofocus in 4K video. Correct me if I'm wrong, I might well be wrong, but I cannot get face detect or eye detection to work in 4K video shooting. Like I say, it might be an error on my part that I just can't figure it out. I shoot in manual mode for video, and for the life of me I can't find a way of getting it to work. I'm pretty sure I know the menus almost off by heart by now. The menus really aren't that bad, it's just a case of getting to know them, and I have not been able to find anything in there to get it working in 4K. So if it really is missing from the A7 III, I would very much like to see that in the A7 IV, especially for situations like this when the camera is over there. I've got a monitor attached so that I can see myself, see what I'm doing, and I do use the Imaging Edge app as well, just to hit record and stop recording. But with the app how it is, it's not amazing. You can't really do anything settings wise. You can't check your focus, adjust your focus. Having the IAF to rely on would be very nice to have. And the last thing I'd like to see is slightly improved in-body stabilisation. I believe the A7R4 has 5.5 stops IBIS, which I would like to see pass over to the A7 IV as well. I've mentioned before using the A7 III handheld for video. It's alright, supposedly it has 5 stops, but honestly it doesn't feel like it. Compared to the Lumix G9, which I shot a lot of video on, the Sony A7 III doesn't feel anywhere near as stable, so I would like to see improvement there. And that's about it really. That's all I can think of that I'd really like to see in the A7 IV. I don't think we'll see any changes in terms of the sensor. I reckon they've got it pretty nailed down with this sensor. 24 megapixel is generally plenty for most people. There may be a few additions in terms of firmware for different focus features and whatnot. Button layout, they might change around a little bit. Even on the A7R4 they did switch around a couple of little things compared to the A7R3, including the more tactile looking joystick on the back as well. So we might see some changes there, but who knows. And that's all I've got to say on the matter for now, really. The time of year is approaching, I think, and I thought I'd just put my thoughts out there. I'd love to know what you think. What would you like to see in the new camera? If the A7 IV does include all these things that I've listed off, do you think that you'd switch from an A7 III if you're using that already? So if you've got any thoughts, do be sure to drop them down in the comments down below. I'll try and reply to everyone on this channel. Otherwise, I'll leave it there. So thank you very much for watching. If you want to see more like this, do be sure to hit subscribe down in the bottom corner and the notification bell as well. Give it a like if you liked it. If you really liked it, I've got a PayPal link down below. By all means, please feel free to get me a coffee to get these videos out a bit quicker. And of course, I've got Amazon UK affiliate links down in the description below. So if you still want to pick up an A7 III or any of the other equipment that I use, then head down there. If you do use those links to buy anything, it'll cost you nothing extra at all, and it might get me a few pennies. So until next time, be good, get out there shooting, and I'll see you in the next one.